welcome to today's session of Inspiring Leadership Stories, where we look at leadership and self-leadership through different lenses by sharing experiences and stories of coaches, mentors, and experts from various backgrounds across the globe. All of them are game changers. Now, today I welcome Vivian McGrath. Viv, it's great to have you today. Welcome. Could you please introduce yourself briefly? Who is Vivian McGrath? Where do you live? And what do you do in life?
Oh, wow, how long have you got? Oh, I'm so happy to be here, Fabian. It's so lovely. I'm Vivian McGrath. Well, I am a personal power coach and I work with really high-performing women who all share a bit of a secret. They are very successful in their careers. To the outside world, they look very successful, very strong. Their kids are well educated, they've got a great job, all that. But deep down inside, they just don't feel good enough. They've got the imposter syndrome. Their relationships are not the fulfilling relationships that they really like. So in a way, they're hiding behind the veneer of successful career and the perfect family, whilst not experiencing the most desirable personal life. And so they're not aligned. Outwardly, they're strong. Inwardly, they're sort of hiding a bit of insecurity, guilt, fear, shame, and all that. And I work with them to absolutely align themselves to live their best life, both on the inside and out, so that they can never settle for less than they deserve again, and absolutely step up to become the most empowered, aligned, successful woman who creates the life they dream of.
That's absolutely amazing. Sorry, go on.
No, you go on, because I'm sure the rest of my story will come out as we go.
Yes, yeah. Well, I have many questions, and one is how do they end up in that situation? Because it really is intriguing, and at the same time fascinating. Because as you know, I work with female managers, and I help them to build towering self-confidence and to lead with ease and get more recognition and more respect and better salaries, etc. And I notice the same, so I'm very curious to know, how do they end up in that kind of situation, and how do you help them actually? So I'm very curious to know.
Yeah, well, I came to learn this through a really extreme personal circumstance. I came from a very middle-class family, very happy childhood. There was nothing in my childhood that would suggest that I would end up being in the relationship that I ended up in, which was, when I was young, I ended up in a very toxic relationship that escalated to the point where I actually almost lost my life in that relationship. It went from just subtle control to emotional abuse to full-on physical violence. And when I came out of that, I was a single mother, and the courage it took for me to leave that relationship is another story. But I did leave that. And what was really interesting to me was when I left with a baby and only what I could fit into my car, literally, that's how I fled. And I had to start again from nothing. And I remember thinking, sobbing for weeks on my bed and thinking, how did I get here? How on earth did I get here? I'm strong, I'm capable, I'm well educated. Everyone looked up to me and asked me for advice. How am I, this broken single mother, crying on my bed, thinking, no one's ever going to love me again? I'm damaged goods, sort of thing. And then there was the spark in me that said, who do I have to become to create the life I want to live for me and my child. And that led me onto this incredible journey of self-discovery and self-healing that I realize is relevant to all of us. And what I discovered was that beneath that tough, strong, capable exterior was a very frightened little girl. And I was shocked to find her, Fabian, because I didn't even know that she was there. And it was a little girl who just didn't feel good enough, worthy enough. And what I've since found out is that 7 in 10 young girls today don't feel good enough. And what you don't realize, and it's much more complicated, which I won't go into now because it's a lot more complicated to understand how you become a frightened little girl who doesn't feel good enough. But just suffice to say that when you do feel like that, unlovable, unworthy, it impacts your life in so many ways. From the way it shows up at work, as you were describing, is you people please. You are afraid of confrontation, so you keep your head down. You don't show up. You don't ask for that pay rise you deserve. You don't set boundaries with bosses like I came across in my life that were a bit misogynist, whatever. And then in relationships, you settle for less than you deserve because you think I'm unlovable, I'm not good enough. So you spend your life dating, trying to find someone who'll fill the hole in you, rather than dating from a perspective of, are they good enough for me?
Exactly.
Does that make sense? But that's really where the heart of it comes from. That's where the imposter syndrome comes from, all of that.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so sorry to hear this, Viv. And it's so recognizable. And yeah, that's what I notice as well. Lots and lots of women with imposter syndrome. And by the way, yesterday I was talking to someone, and that person said to me, well, but it's probably not that simple, but there is a lot of truth in it. She said, boys are educated to be brave, girls are educated to be perfect. And
Oh, yeah, like that.
isn't it? So, and I noticed this in the corporate world as well. And it's extremely fascinating, isn't it? And I'm so glad that there are people out there like you who are helping and serving those women, because the world needs it very badly, especially now, even more than before. And
Yeah.
yes.
Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. But the funny thing is, because I'm perversely grateful that I went, yeah, and my story is extreme, and you don't have to have an extreme story like mine to experience that unworthiness and that fear. And because it's very, very, very common in women. And I also think that, but I am perversely grateful that I went through it and that I had the courage to actually get to the root cause of what those subconscious hidden beliefs and patterns of behavior that I had, like people pleasing, and as a girl, we're brought up to be self-serving and self-sacrificing more than men are as well. And to really, really understand the subconscious patterns and the impact it was having on my life that I wasn't aware of. And once you have that knowledge, it's powerful because it unlocked everything for me, and it really related to relationships in the workplace. It taught me how to be a really successful leader, because what I went on to become was I said to myself, who do I have to become to create the life I dream of for me and my son? Because I am not going to be defined by that experience. I'm going to be defined by a vision of my future. So what does that future looks like? What does that future look like? Who do I have to become? And I had this dream that I wanted to be in television. I wanted to be a storyteller, and I created it, and literally out of nothing. And so I took myself back to university. I got my studies. I forged a really successful television career that culminated in me making massively hit TV shows in London for big American broadcasters like Discovery Channel, TLC, National Geographic, BBC, and British television networks, and all that. And these shows required me to learn incredible leadership skills, because when you're leading a team who's making 26 big American TV shows simultaneously, I had a team of, a couple of hundred people. And what I learned is that your business, your leadership skills, your relationships, because I also went on to find incredibly beautiful, healthy love with the man I'm with 33 years later, but that's another story. But they all are a reflection of you. So what I realized was that when I learned the simple thing was that you cannot control anything outside of you. You cannot control anyone, anything outside of you. So I couldn't control that relationship. But what was within my power was that I could change me. And when I realized that, and people they sometimes say you're victim blaming. If you're saying, you've got to change you as a result of it. But I say, no. That, to me, that's empowering. If there's something about me that I can change, that then creates the luck I have, creates the success I have, creates the beautiful relationships I have, I'm all in. That to me is liberating.
Yes.
And once I learned what it is that I could change within me, then I could reflect out. And that's how I learned to become a great leader, a great wife, a great mother, because leadership's also about parenting. It impacts every area of your life.
Of course.
Sorry if I'm running ahead too.
No, it's so inspiring, absolutely. And Viv, of course, you have had lots and lots of experiences and insights and lessons, and thanks to that, wisdom. What do you consider as your best or maybe worst leadership experience ever? And it
Wow.
can be related to work, it can be related to something else.
I think, as I started, what was interesting was I healed the relationship part of me first. And then I ended up in the really beautiful relationship. So I was good there. So I thought, I'm good, I'm fine. But then I forgot that actually you still reflect out, you mirror out in business, in your workplace, in what you do. And what I started to find as I was rising up, I had a lot of success very quickly in the television industry. And I was surrounded by television executives who were male. And here I was, this female who was unknown because I came from another country, and landed in England, where there's this class system and this, white male privileged men rule the roost and all this sort of stuff. And I was rising up, and I suddenly had this huge success because I had this hit show out of the blue that people went, who's she? And I, a lot of my insecurities started to come up because I was thinking, wow, that's a one-off success. Who am I to have this success? And I then found the men, some of the men, not all. I've had some amazing leaders in my life, by the way, but the ones who are not so taught me a lot about myself. And so I thought it'd be good to give an example of one guy who didn't like the success, and he started to tear me down. And what it reflected back to me was that I was still people pleasing at work. I wasn't doing this in relationships, but I was doing it at work. I was people pleasing at work. I was terrified of confrontation, and I had no boundaries. And where this all came to the fruition and made me learn this lesson was that my boss, he was somehow got me down into this garage of the building, and he was got into his car, and he was going to leave, and then he put the roof down and he started screaming at me. And internally, I was just shaking because it was quite confrontational, and I was terrified of confrontation. But because I'd been working on myself enough and learnt boundaries in relationships, and I just thought, oh my gosh, this is the same as my verbally abusive ex. I've got to apply the same principles here. And I thought, don't get triggered. Don't get triggered. It's really triggering, but don't get triggered. And I realized that if somebody's like that, and a bad leader is someone who screams and shouts at you,
Mhm.
if he's like that and I stay calm, it's going to be really obvious who is the one who's out of control here. And then I thought, I have to say no without fear of this confrontation. So this was the first time I really learned to say no. And when I learned to say no, it was the liberating word of my entire life. And so while I was shaking internally and feeling sick to the stomach at this guy who was blaming me for this, that, and the other going wrong in this program, I don't know where it came from. This voice came out of me that said, I'm sorry you feel that way. I don't agree. I'm really happy to have this conversation, but only when we can do so in a calmly and without aggression and as adults. So I'm going to leave, but the door's still open whenever you want to have this conversation. I'm really happy to. And I walked out, and then I was almost sick.
Oh my God, that
And
must,
what that was, by saying, I'm sorry you feel that way, I don't agree, I'm not taking on his blame. I just make him own his emotion. Like, I'm saying to him, I'm sorry you feel that way. That's your emotion, not mine. I'm not going to take on your crap. And I don't agree. It says I know my values. I know my worth. I don't agree with you. And I'm happy to have that conversation when you come. And you know what?
you know.
I realized at that moment, bullies are cowards. And it was like if you're old enough, if anyone's old enough as I am, they'll remember the Wizard of Oz. And the wizard is just this little old guy behind a curtain. And I realized that the fear of confrontation, the fear of being judged if I spoke my truth and my mind and stuck to my values and set boundaries, is greater. It becomes the fear of the fear itself.
Mhm.
But when you actually find the courage to put that boundary down, it goes away. And he melted. And from that moment on, he had huge respect for me.
Yeah. Yes.
It completely changed the dialogue.
Yes.
So
It's
that was a really bad leader.
That is such a great story. I mean, it's much more than a story. It's a great experience, and it's a great insight and lesson, for our audiences who are listening now. It's really fabulous, Viv, because I know, and I've witnessed this as well. I know that afterwards, that behavior and that relationship changes completely. Um, now,
Before that, before that setting of the boundary, and it really comes down to knowing what your values are, knowing what your boundaries are, knowing what your red lines are, and then just staying true to who you are. And it saves you all those years of somebody like that doing that to you, and then you saying nothing and going home and churning all night over it and thinking, why didn't I speak up for myself?
yes, absolutely. And then, this is something people really lay awake about.
Yeah.
And
I
it makes them
very
ill.
much.
I mean, I'm talking now about, the corporate world in general.
Oh yeah.
It makes people ill. just look at the number of burnouts, the number of long-term absenteeism. It's terrible. So, and it really, really is correlated, well, with two things. All of what you just said, so boundaries, etc., self-esteem, but also with, with bad management or a certain leadership style that's not the leadership style that we need to be empowered, isn't it? So yeah, it's very interesting. Now, Viv, who do you consider to be the most inspiring leader, and why?
Well, I've been thinking about this, and I thought I don't want to come up with who everybody comes up with. I want this to be an interesting answer. So there's this guy that I think is incredible because he is a leader of leaders. Simon Sinek. Have you come across Simon Sinek?
Yes, start with why.
Yes, start with why. And what I love about Simon Sinek is and if you haven't watched his TED Talk, it really is worth doing it, called Start With Why, is what he identified was when I saw that, I was so validated because it was sort of what I found to be true when I learned to become a good leader, in that it is about being true to your why. And you see that, and what he talks about over years of studying companies that were very successful, particularly ones where the father was the success story and then it hands down to the son and the son kills the company. Those stories. What he found was the ones that were really, really, really successful were the ones who deeply cared about why they are doing it, and deeply cared about getting everybody that worked with them all aligning with the same values. Exactly. Because it's about your values, your core beliefs, your core reasons why you're doing this. And that resonates with me so much, because what changed my life was my why, because I said, who do I have to become to change the life for me and my son? And my son was my why. And I hadn't heard of Simon Sinek when I was a TV producer. And when I was in edit suites watching director's cuts, which you hear director's cuts and you think, oh, that's cool, I'm going to watch the director's cut. Trust me, most director's cuts I watched were so boring because they were all about the what and the how. And I would just say, look, you just got to make me care. Make me care. And when I became a leader of these massive teams, I realized from learning from these leaders who, as Simon Sinek, just did it because they're doing it for the money, the profit, to look good for what they do or whatever. It's the wrong values. Yes. And the companies like that, yeah, they made TV shows, but they never had that deep connection and massive audiences that I used to get with my show. And this is why I became successful very quickly, was because I just tapped into the emotion. And then I translated that across my whole company, in that I believe that to be a great leader, and it's not just about your why, but understanding, not only being so secure within yourself that you're not afraid to surround yourself with the most talented, the most brilliant at what they do people, because you're self-insured, you're not threatened or jealous or trying to tear them down. And if your values align, and my values are honesty, integrity, nurturing, mentoring, letting everybody become successful, that sort of thing. If I realized that if I brought people in that's what they wanted, that's what their values, to be the best version of themselves, then they're going to do the best job and make me look amazing anyway.
And of course.
And that's why I love Simon Sinek, because he talks about these companies who are a culture of fear, a culture of ego, And you look at the world we're in now, where there's culture of fear, ego, divisiveness, the other, why it's leading us all down this really unfulfilling, awful path.
Yes.
But when you see the antidote to that is all the people who are the leaders who are rising up, who are the ones who just it's about values, it's about beliefs that are the same belief system, and at the core it's the why. So I love him because I think he's a real leader of leaders, and he's somebody who sums up leadership so incredibly that I've learned a lot from that too. It's really crystallized what I sort of learned myself, but didn't realize what I was doing, if you know what I mean.
He definitely is awesome, absolutely. Now, you just mentioned very, very valuable things such as nurturing, but also mentoring, empowering. That's
Mm,
exactly what I'm trying to teach my female managers, and I really want, to help them to
yeah.
be and become and be the servant leader, the leader of their dreams. But you mentioned mentoring, nurturing. Why would you invest? Why would you recommend, Viv, our audiences to invest in mentoring?
Oh, it is without a doubt. The I invest in mentoring even now after I've grown so much, because and I invest a lot because it is so valuable to me. um I would not be in the place I am in today had I not had the most amazing mentors through my life. Some of them I was so lucky to find in my early career, some beautiful men and women who just, they saw my talent, they saw my ability that I didn't see, that I was hiding from and afraid of, and still, you know, the imposter syndrome is the warden of your dreams. And the thing is, when you don't realize you've got this frightened little girl inside of you, it becomes your comfort zone. It's what you're used to. And whenever you step out of that comfort zone, she goes, "What are you doing? I don't like this. Don't show up." Can I give you an example? One of my clients, and I'll go back to the mentoring, one of my clients is a really successful, high powered executive. And when she came to me, she counted every single, I know she climbed 24 stairs to her office every day. And I said, "How do you know that?" And she said, "Because I dread every day I go up these stairs, I have this dread." And she was operating. She didn't understand why she was fearful, why she was worried about her team not thinking she was a great leader, and why she was thinking, if I do something, I'm going to be judged. Then she would lash out because she was just so insecure. And she had no idea that although outwardly she was so successful, and she had like 2 degrees, that there was a little frightened girl in her just driving the steering wheel. And as I said, I didn't realize that because we're strong, capable women. We don't realize it's there. And it takes somebody else, because these are subconscious beliefs,
Yeah.
subconscious patterns of behavior, subconscious habits that have been your normal because that's what you've done all your life. You can't see them.
No.
And so it takes somebody to really, really, really shine a light. And I thought, honestly, that I've got, I'm good. I'm fine. I've been doing this stuff all my life. And even recently, because I have my own mentors that I paid a lot of money for. Even recently, some of that stuff I wasn't even aware of, the residual stuff still came up. And I was like, really? Still there? And we are often really great. So, I'm a coach, and I have my own coach, because sometimes what we are really great at telling other people, teaching other people, we're actually terrible at doing it ourselves, to ourselves. I think it's invaluable. And you know what it's given me? It's given me the fast track, because the stuff I learned so rapidly, instead of years, and I could have maybe one day got there, but it would have taken years and years and years of pain and years of heartache. And I broke those cycles rapidly, quickly, and then have only grown and built further. And that's why I always have my own coaching.
Yes, it's
Because
priceless.
it's brilliant. And I'm a better coach, I have to say. I'm now a really great coach, not least because some of what I've been taught.
Yes, that's awesome. Absolutely fantastic. It's the only way to go. You know, there's
Yeah,
nothing else but yourself you can invest in, and we are our best assets. There's nothing
yeah,
else. Of course, except from health, but it goes together. I mean, it's
yeah.
yeah. Fantastic, Viv. It's so inspiring. We could go on for hours. Now, one,
Final thing. Oh,
yes,
sorry, I was going to add one final thing, because this is leadership is about every area of your life. And you see, when you can step up and be the most aligned, empowered version of you who knows your worth. I say a high value woman, because a high value woman values herself, knows her worth. Then what happens is you can change the world around you. You'll attract high value partners. You'll be unafraid to value your worth and ask for that pay rise that you never got, for example. And you'll show up as the leader at work, where you're unafraid of what people think, rather than cowering and being scared of your staff, you know what I mean? But it's even greater than that, because you can break these patterns, these subconscious patterns that self-sabotage your chances of happiness and success, and teach your children. You become a leader and role model. And the most proudest thing of my life is that my sons, who are in their early 30s now, have both said to me that what I have modeled to them as a, because they've seen me just come up with an idea and go, you know what, I'm going to now reinvent my entire career, and I'm going to now build up, because of all the knowledge I've gained in my lifetime, and start coaching women. And they went, wow. And I said, it's just an idea in my head. And they've watched me build this, and they've watched, and they're like, so they're fearless now in going for their dreams. They're very entrepreneurial. One is a famous film composer in LA. The other is a film director, shooter. They're very successful in their own careers, but they're also incredible men, and they are beautiful, have beautiful, healthy, loving relationships. So it's about being not only a leader in your life, but it ripples out to your staff, your relatives, your children.
oh,
You just show people what self-worth and healthy relationships looks like.
yes,
And it's priceless, you know.
it is. It is absolutely priceless, because, you know, things like getting your life back, getting a healthy, loving, and caring relationship, getting
Yeah,
your self-esteem and self-worth back, towering self-confidence, all of those things, and I could go on and on and on. It's priceless. It's
yeah.
priceless. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
because your clients have that burnout, and they probably feel, I'm so burnt out, I've lost control, I'm exhausted. And they're thinking that it's the external stuff that's the problem. It's my boss, it's this, it's that. But actually, you can face many of it. It's actually, they have the power within them to change them, and then the rest will change around them. And so, burnout, like you said, if you can shine a light on why they're burning out, why they've sort of got to that it's really about getting to the root cause of why you ended up in burnout, why you ended up in a toxic relationship, why you ended up bullied by misogynist bosses, you know, not to blame you,
No.
again, not to blame you, but to give you the power to go, well, if that's the root cause, it's my self-worth, it's my boundaries, it's this and this, then you can change that, and then you're liberated.
Absolutely. And that's the great news. You know, we can change our own situation. We can change ourselves. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's definitely possible. And of course, you know, the magic happens in the effort zone. It doesn't happen in the comfort zone.
Yeah, my client Angela, she now bounds up the stairs to her office. She's now stepped up. She's an amazing leader. Her staff love her because she's nurturing them. She's bringing out the best in them. She's not fearful anymore. And she's not looking back. She's amazing now. So, and that was possible just within a couple of months, not the years. And she would have ended up in burnout
Yeah.
because she was in, as you said, internalizing it all. And then the stress starts to burn. I'm sure you must meet clients who are getting ulcers and things.
Oh yes, oh yes. I get people in calls who say things like, "I'm a nothing. I don't dare to speak up in meetings. I just want to quit," and things like that. And then, you know, after a few months, and I mean, in as little as 2 months, they
Yeah.
say things like, "I'm up for so much more, and nothing can stop
Mm.
me from excelling further." And this is so rewarding. That's what we are doing it for, isn't it, Viv?
And the other thing is, if you invest in yourself, it comes back in, because people sometimes think about money as money, but it's not. It's about the decision that I'm sick of this and I want to change my life. Because when you can, as you just described, show up and uh, stand up as and believe your worth at work, then you can go and get that pay rise. It will come back to you. And it's not just about coming back to you financially, because also if you break the cycle of the relationships that I was in, I end up in a beautiful relationship and you're more likely to, you know, your income goes up 4 times if you're in a relationship with a partner who's stable and balanced, not just being on your own or whatever. But it also comes back to you spiritually, emotionally, physically. You're not burning out, you're not getting ulcers, you're present for your children, you're not, you know, denying them. So it's about an investment in you that pays dividends that are just priceless.
Oh, priceless, absolutely priceless. And it comes back to you 100-fold or even 1,000-fold. And the ripple effect is so huge because, you know, just to give an example, when you have a happy team, they,
Yes.
yeah, it has this positive impact on their families as well. It has a positive impact, you know, on the department,
Yeah,
on the clients, on the
team, make a
stakeholders, on it's absolutely, yeah,
so
yeah, it's not
I
a,
get excited. What happened was I became a really good leader, and I became one who, it wasn't about me and my ego. It was about our values and nurturing and all that. And what happened was I had a high retention rate. No, nobody left me, and I was in an industry which was all based on freelance work, and I would find same freelancers coming back and back and back. So even though it was a freelance run industry, um, I ended up with a very, very loyal team that stayed with me for years. And as a result, because we knew each other so well, the programs we made were better. We got more work because people wanted to employ, you know, commission me to make shows because they knew that everybody just loved working at this company. So business started to see that was a company that people loved working for. It just, you know, I can't even go on. It just ripples out, 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 out.
yes, I'm so grateful, Viv, that you are mentioning this because it is very largely underestimated, unfortunately, in the corporate world. And I just don't understand how people in the corporate world don't understand this. But it is so true. So I'm so grateful that you just mentioned this. And by the way, you have given lots of golden nuggets now.
Oh,
Would you have one special golden nugget for both of our audiences?
I think the biggest thing for me was when I understood and finally learnt that I am enough. I don't have to prove myself. I don't have to walk around with a gavel over my head like a judge, judging myself, beating myself up over the head. And just knowing that I am enough and that the power is within me to, if I can change me to become the best version aligned to my true core values, beliefs, and my goals,
Yeah,
then the rest will follow.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Within your power.
Yes, 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 I truly believe this. And well, we both experience this for ourselves
Mhm.
and for our clients. Thank you so, so much, Viv. Now to wrap up, where can people find you?
Oh, easy. It's my name. So my website is vivianmcgrath.com, VIVIANMCGRATH.com. I think you'll put it in the link. And on there, I have a free webinar that you can watch that really goes into looking at that sort of hidden shame cycle, I call it, that you might not even be aware that exists in you. I'm on Facebook as, again, Vivian McGrath. I have a Facebook group called Love You and Choose the Life You Want, and
Wow,
a YouTube channel called youtube.com/unbeatable, because I am now unbeatable.
Okay, that sounds awesome. I will put all of the links below this
Thank
video
you.
so that can people find you. Vivian, thank you so much for this amazing, inspiring conversation. And we could go on, but I think we shouldn't make it too long for our audience. Thank you so much. It was lovely having you.
Yeah, I've loved every minute. Thank you, Fabian, and keep doing the brilliant work that you do.
You too.
Companies need.
Thank you
Bye
so
bye.
much. Bye, Vivian. Talk soon. Bye.